I often get this question when I find myself speaking passionately about some operatic story.
I have so much to offer.
People often ask me, where did opera get its start? And so in today's video, I'm going to dive into how opera got its start. Let's jump in. Hi, Cassandra here with Opera for Black Folks, and on this channel, I share videos that break down the classical arts and opera from a Jamaican American perspective. So it's actually a 400-year-old craft. It was developed 400 years ago.
Excuse me, how old are you?
It was developed in Western Europe as a means of bringing all of the arts together under one umbrella. So we have poetry, drama, dance, and music. Opera is the Italian word for work, which I go into in one of my other videos. And this was also happening in the 17th century around Italy and France. It was popularized in these royal palaces. So you got to think about it. These productions were birthed from a desire to entertain visiting dignitaries from other countries.
Makes your day, makes your night.
People like Louis XIV, the sun god or the sun king, had these lavish, very elaborate ballrooms, and the sun king loved to dance. In fact, he was the first person to create a school for ballet. There was this desire to impress people with things like processions and dances and sung episodes and wonderful elaborate costumes and with props and chariots and stage effect. People would often pull the stories from like mythical stories, or they would write the stories that would parallel to whoever was reigning at the time. So
entertain me.
The first opera was Orfeo by Monteverdi, and it was performed in Italy in 1607, and it was birthed out of the Greek myth Orpheus. 300 years later, performed again until London in 1929, and it's still performed today. It's really cool. It's like, wow, this piece of history that's art that you can go and watch and experience. And in the 1600s and the early 1700s, that's the
Renaissance period.
When it moves into the 18th century, it gets popularized because then
Wowed audiences across 18th century Europe.
all of these dignitaries are essentially experiencing this wonderful art, bringing some of that back, replicate that experience in their own countries, in their own homes. It turned out that every single major city in Europe started to build opera houses and would commission operas so that people could attend.
Finding out what operas I go to?
During this time, the 18th century was like a birth of creative expression, creative self-expression. It was the only way that people were able to experience commentary about what was happening in their world. When we go into the 19th century, we have the rise of nationalism and the rise of the composer that taking ownership of their value, whereas in Mozart's time in the 18th century, you were beholden to whoever was willing to pay you to write and create music. You really didn't have any independence to write your own music and share your own stories that touched your heart. You were just basically trying to make some lord or some lady look great in front of their friends.
It's all about me.
We have Wagner, who makes this music drama. It's the first time we think about drama in music, which we still enjoy today in our movies. Like, look at Star Wars. Star Wars is a freaking space opera, and the reason that that's so dramatic is because of the music, because honestly, without the music, the acting is... Then Verdi, he focuses in on the bel canto, or the beautiful singing, and writing music that has these gorgeous melodies, which inspires a lot of tunes that are memorable and that we still love and listen to today.
You want drama? Go to the opera.
Then we move into the 20th century and we have more of an individualistic approach to opera. So we have Puccini, who comes through and he brings in the idea of romanticism, music, this sweeping, wonderful, lush lines that we really love to hear and that make us feel all kinds of wonderful things in our heart. And then in France, we have Debussy, who is exploring poetic, evocative, like these it's poetic but through music, and so that can have a bit of abstract nature to them, or these lush long lines. And then we have Germany with Strauss, which was more dissonant and intentionally shocking, like his opera Salome, where there's a lot of shock factor in that particular story. I mean, it's the story of John the Baptist being beheaded. Like, it's shocking just in that story alone. You're like, okay, well, why did he get beheaded? And all of the intrigue around that, These trends of opera become more fractured, and the practice is more avant-garde and just stretching the capacity of what our ears can consume. And so sometimes it's a little harder to walk away from those operas having a melody in your mind, but the stories are really intense and they really stay with you. There's like a vivid nature to what you experience and hear and feel. And so then that moves us into opera of today, which remains relevant and it's entertaining with new stories like X, The Life and Times of Malcolm X, which is at the Met Opera right now, November 2023 when I'm recording this. We have Fire Shut Up in My Bones by Terence Blanchard. Also by Terence Blanchard, we have The Story of Champion, and then we have the Florencia en el Amazonas. That's what we're gonna say. Also at the Met right now. It's wonderful to know that opera is still expanding. You know, we're testing and experimenting with the limits of what the human voice is capable of through music and song. And so, yeah, opera's still gonna be around here for a good long while. Okay, that's my share for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. So, did you learn something new today? And if so, please let me know what you learned in the comments. And if you enjoyed today's content, please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. This is Opera for Black folks, serving culture to all folks. I look forward to seeing you next time. Ciao.